PTF and JK back with you. Hello and welcome to In the Money Media's top 10 takeaways from this year's Kentucky Derby. We're going to have separate content recapping the whole weekend, but we wanted to get this one up there as soon as possible. Thought about doing it yesterday, but it just wasn't happening. Brains were pudding. That's the thing that happens. Let's start, and we're going to go from number 1 to number 10. Number 1 for me, JK, and we agreed about this one off air. It was nice to have a formful Derby with a satisfying winner. Great to see the great Bill Mott go through the front door this time in getting his Derby winner. And great to see an angle come to fruition that we've talked about since day one of this podcast. Give me your overall impressions on how this Derby turned out in terms of the horses that crossed the leaderboard first.
Well, the number 11 on the top 10 takeaways is if you don't sound like this after a weekend at the Kentucky Derby, you literally did not do it right. So I'm very proud that I sound like this because it's
Husky.
proof that I attacked it the days as I was supposed to. As far as the top 10, I think what you mean by this is when you walk away from a Kentucky Derby after talking about it and hyping it up for 6 months and something happens that you never could have predicted, it makes you feel like that entire 6 months of discussion and excitement in analyzing these situations, just is like completely out the window. Like, what was I doing it for? And I think that when you have a situation like this, it feels good. It feels good when you see a sovereignty run well, when you see a journalism run well, a Baza run well. It makes you feel like, okay, there is something that I can uncover by looking at all these prep races.
Let's talk about journalism. I have him at number 2 on my list, and I wrote it down as journalism still is who we thought he was. And, there is a devil's advocate case just to say that for a second there, when he ran that 108, there was this idea that he was just this horse that breathes different air. But look, that was never fair. What we always really knew journalism was a really, really good racehorse, among the best of his generation. And he certainly proved that on Saturday. Where do you come away from this year's Derby vis-a-vis your opinion about journalism?
I thought he ran extremely well. I thought that he got a little bit of a better, or I think Sovereignty got a little bit of a better trip. I don't know if it would have made the difference. I do think journalism had some trouble earlier in the race, a little bit more trouble than Sovereignty. But at the same time, I think the best horse probably won, especially on the day. And I think the journalism's got a couple of grade ones with his name on them. Throughout the rest of the year. I wouldn't be cutting in line to take a Sovereignty over journalism in the Travers or the Preakness or the Belmont if we could see all these horses in those spots.
Yeah, I said it as the rain situation became obvious. And I don't know that it really mattered in the end, but it just seemed to me like in those conditions, you had a lot more of a chance to get jammed up down in the 8 than you did out at the 18. I'm not saying that was some brilliant observation or anything, but it did certainly change my reckoning of the race a little bit. Be great to see those two come back. Right now, as we sit here on Monday, they are both listed as, well, one is listed as probable, Sovereignty listed as probable for the Preakness, and journalism actually listed as possible, which would surprise me, I'm not going to lie, but boy, that would be fun. Should mention, what a perfect segue, that the Preakness, one of the sponsors of today's video, and for folks who haven't been paying attention to how player-friendly Maryland racing is right now, 12% pick 5, something you want to take advantage of. You've also got on Preakness Day the Preakness Challenge, $1,500 live bankroll contest, and you don't have to just buy your way in. You have the opportunity to win your way in. Go over to expressbet.com/tournaments to learn more about that. So I have a bullet point here. I can't decide which order to do these in, if I should go for the cheeky, funny way, or no, I'll do them in a straightforward way, because I'm also sort of half doing ads. So the ad I will put in now is for this very In the Money Media YouTube channel, which it pays to listen to, people, because my next takeaway is, JK, tied into when we were talking about it being formful. We get to feel smart for a minute. I mean, we were all over this 7 ways to Sunday, and that's quite a contrast to a couple of years ago where I kid you not, I was wandering around with a 1,000-yard stare in that little neighborhood right across the street from Churchill Downs. An inconceivable result of Rich Strike. Everybody's heard me do the line by now about, I said one line out of 16 hours on that horse. This is the opposite, and it feels good as an analyst. It's worth, in some ways, it's worth as much as the money to know that I gave out 3 horses and they finished 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to be right in this race. We found that out. So when you are, it definitely feels good.
Speaking of the In the Money Media YouTube channel, we are so close to our 12,500 subscriber goal. We are going to get there by Preakness, but we need your help. We look at the stats on these videos. We know most of you have not subscribed. Very, very easy thing to subscribe to the channel, and it helps you too. You won't miss any of our YouTube exclusive content. Also helps us if you drop a comment. Let us know what your biggest takeaway was from this year's Kentucky Derby. We'll get a big chat going on down there. Okay, so now that bragging out of the way, it's time to get humble. Owen Almighty, a horse that you and I dismissed, what was the best of speed, not by a little, but by a lot, assuming these exertions didn't take too much out of the horse. And I'm not ruling that out because there's a reason why there was all the hemming and hawing, he's in, he's out. Being in the Derby when you're, going to be stretched to do so can take a horse back going forward. But if this horse can hold his form, is he not the clear favorite in all these 3-year-old sprint races after that awesome effort proving best of speed by some way?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Owen Almighty is that he is cemented an idea that I have been kind of dancing around for a while, which is that talent matters so much more than stamina in the Kentucky Derby. While I think a lot of people get very caught up in will they get the 10 furlongs, that only matters if they're a not very, very talented horse, right? It matters if they're a middle of the pack type that doesn't have any really impressive performances. And I think with Owen Almighty, I think he's just a pretty talented racehorse. And that while he wasn't probably ever going to win the Kentucky Derby, in the right situation with the right setup and the right trip, he had enough talent to overcome the stamina concerns that Brian Lynch was very obviously concerned about. And he went ahead and got a 5th place finish to help round out the Super High Five.
I'll go farther, JK. I think there's a world in which, think about the Medina Spirit year. I think in a year where the race was going to go in 100 instead of 104, and you didn't have so much other speed, that this effort from Owen Almighty, to me, under slightly different circumstances, could have even produced a win in a weaker type of a year. I mean, I thought it was that good. Hopefully not overrating. We'll see what comes back. Hopefully I want to hear the news that he's eaten up and doing great and it didn't bother him and he'll be back hopefully in a race like the Woody Stevens maybe in 5 weeks time.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe they found out that he wants to go this far and they were all wrong, and maybe we'll see him in a couple weeks in the Preakness.
No, they're going to cut him back. I'm almost sure of it. We'll see, though. We'll see. You could be right. Not currently listed among the possibles, but that would be something if that were to go down. Be great to see from a sporting point of view. I don't want to get my hopes up about having another Derby horse back. Baza, let's talk about him. Now, he will not be running in the Preakness. We have that established already. It's incredible that John Sheriff's, who so famously conservative trainer, just look at the way he campaigned the great Zenyatta, for them to be so aggressive and get this lightly raced horse in this spot and for him to run as well as he did, absolutely has the chance to be special. I can't rule out Baza being the best of his generation by the time we get to the Breeders' Cup Classic. What do you think? Could I be onto something with the upside of Baza?
It's interesting. He's going to have a little bit more of a tougher time than a journalism, but of sovereignty, because he's West Coast based. And John Sheriff basically stays on the West Coast. I could see Michael McCarthy having journalism kind of set up shop in the summer on the East Coast. I could see that happening. I don't think he has to necessarily be on the West Coast full time. When it comes to a horse like Baza, he's going to have to do a lot of going back and forth to win the races necessary to be able to try to end up being the champion. But I think the biggest takeaway for me with Baza is that dam is a super dam, right? With Mage winning the Derby, with Dornick winning the Belmont, and then with another 3rd place finish in the Derby. Very interested to see what happens with her next one. I think she's in Foal the Frankel currently, so could be interesting.
Very, very interesting. Interesting. They went away from a dirt sire with her. I wonder what that's about. That's very, very interesting. Let's talk Luxor Cafe for a minute. This effort does not do anything to diminish my idea that the Japanese are going to win this race. This was a no-hope trip from very, very early on. And I think maybe are some people going to get tired of the Japanese narratives with an off-the-board finish from Luxor Cafe? I don't think they should be. I do not think this was a representative effort whatsoever. I'm still down with that idea that the Japanese will get a Derby in the next 10 years. What do you see?
I'll tell you what I see is what I saw on Thursday morning at Lanes Inn, which is the owners and the team around Admire Daytona at Lanes Inn Farm, and they were looking at Flightline for it felt like about 30 minutes. So it seems that they're pretty intense and focused on finding the American pedigrees to be able to find a way to win this type of race. And I agree with you. I think they will as well at some point.
They've just done such a good job getting the American speed with their Japanese stamina and breeding some of the best racehorses in the world. We'll get back to one sort of related to our sponsor. We don't have the Preakness field exactly in focus yet. We will have a top 5 Preakness video at some point sooner rather than later on this channel. So keep your eyes out for that. So the jury very much out on what this Preakness field is going to look like. That's another takeaway I have coming out of this year's Kentucky Derby, just because it doesn't seem like we have a lot of hellbent for leather. We are going to Baltimore quotes the way you do some years. But however it works out, it's going to be a fantastic day. And we'll talk much more about the individuals in the Preakness top 5 video. But how about you, JK? You looking forward to this Preakness one way or another?
Absolutely, I love it. It's the one thing that helps on the Monday after the Derby is that letdown of the excitement of leading up to the Kentucky Derby. If I didn't have the Preakness 2 weeks later, I might go into a slight depression about getting excited about something. But before you know it, it's Preakness week, and there's all the great supporting stakes as well underneath. So I'm looking forward to it.
We'll do 2 in the rabbit hole ones, and then we're gonna close with a more cultural one, which will actually end up being 11. But hey, who's counting? You had a great observation about the new Derby starting gate and how it changes things. For one thing, it's wonderful to not have that gap between the main and the auxiliary. No longer a disadvantage to be in whatever it was, the 16 that invariably a horse got rammed into from. Yes, horses still get rammed into in the Derby. It's a cavalry charge to that first turn, but to have one post you knew you were in trouble in, that was bad. And there's another post that used to be a very bad thing that maybe isn't so much anymore. I'll let you do this one.
Yeah, I think a quality speed horse will win from the rail at some point. I think Citizen Bull just has kind of gone the wrong direction as the 2-year-old champion. But if you get the right horse down there, I think a Justify that year, I think he would have won from the 1. I think American Pharaoh would have won from the 1 the way that he ran, especially with the new gate. They can pop away from there, save ground on both turns if they can make the lead. And I think the right horse will win from the inside. I don't think it's nearly the doomsday one post that it has been in the past.
My next one is going to be about the market in general. Horse players, we're all inclined to get cute and bet exactas and bet doubles and pick this and pick that. The Derby win pool is by far, to me, the most inefficient and interesting market of the year. And you should go out of your way, whatever all else you're doing, you should go out of your way as a horse player to get money in this market. I have never seen a market so inefficient. And it's even kind of obvious looking at it where the money's coming from. He's a good horse. I'm not saying anything against any of these horses, but too much money for Sandman has to be several things. Great name, beautiful gray horse, but the TikTok effect with Griffin Johnson bringing a lot of new people into the game. Props to him. Dwayne Lucas got a ton of play. American Promise to me, demonstrably overbet. With the commingling with Japan, Luxor Cafe, as great as I thought his chances were, more like 16-1, not 8. Huge extra money in the pool. I think it was $10 million that came in from Japan. You figure half of that was on their horses. And this will lead into our last one, Render Judgment. I think that partially because of the Toby Keith connection, but much more than that, the Netflix show featuring Kenny McPeak so much, I think that drove a lot of money that way. And when that money goes there, you end up with Sovereignty, who was 5-1 internationally, being 8-1. You end up with Journalism, who was 2.5, who's basically 2-1 in the imputeds, going off at wherever he landed. It was over 3. And Baza, a horse that internationally was 12 in places, longer than that in others, but going off the price that he did. So Derby win pool, don't sleep on it. And let's talk a little bit more about Render Judgment, specifically that Netflix effect. I think it's real, JK.
Yeah, look, when you look at the NBC Sports released that this is the most watched Kentucky Derby since 1991. And if you think about it, there's a lot of good horses. There was no 2-year-old champion, superstar, undefeated, American Pharaoh, justified type, right? It was just a nice, good field, don't get me wrong. And I think the fact that they broke that record on a sloppy racetrack, I think it says a lot to the casual fan. I know my phone saw a lot more text messages than a normal Derby day. They always come on Derby day, but even more so of people that were getting involved because they were introduced to the game through the Netflix show. So kudos to Box to Box and Ian Sambor for the production that they did, because I think it has actually moved the needle. Now let's see if it's a long-term effect, but it certainly doesn't hurt that on our best day, Breeders' Cup, Preakness, Belmont, on our best days, if we're getting more eyeballs, it's only better for us all in the long run.
Bonus takeaway from Kentucky Derby Day: JK will win his handicapping major. Tell us about your experience in the KDBC.
Yeah, I thought I had a chance to win it. I got into a position where I wanted to be able to bet journalism sovereignty to win. I got to that position. The problem is, I think, we haven't even talked about this, Pete. I think if somehow I could have split that exacta, if it could have been 18-21-8, I think I probably have a much better chance of winning. But the 8-18 situation just allowed too many people to cold deck it. I know Frank Mastari had $1,000 exacta and a bunch of tries. And I think that's what made it harder in that situation. I haven't done the full reflection on what I could have done differently. The one simple thing I thought about, Pete, is I could have went all in on goal-oriented instead of only betting $2,000 to win on goal-oriented, which would have raised basically my dollar amount all the way through the contest, which I need to do the research on. Where would that have put me? And then would my win bets have gotten me there? But outside of that, it was still fun. It was good to see the ball go through the hoop, and we'll get them next time.
Good news, you can come back and play in the Preakness Challenge in just a couple of weeks' time. Lots of opportunities to play in handicapping contests. Just a reminder, thanks so much to the Preakness for sponsoring this video. Learn more about the Preakness Challenge over at expressbet.com/tournaments. You'll get your major, JK, maybe as soon as this fall in the Breeders' Cup. Great getting to spend some time with you. Reminder out there to folks, please subscribe to the In the Money Media YouTube channel, and we'll be back with more great racing content